Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let We Hear From Doc. I'm your host, Amanda Japal, and with me today is Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Claudius Mitchell. And today is a very special day because today we go beyond the politics and see the man himself. Listen to his stories, learn about his childhood days. So, Dr. Mitchell, how have you been?
I've been okay. Of course, I always look forward to sessions on Monday. It starts off my week in the right way. So I look forward to the session today again.
Well, today is a very special one. It's not much about your political life, but it's about you, you, the man himself, the young Grenadian boy, the father, the son. So, what were you like as a child? We see you as a politician, but what were you like as a child? Were you the troublemaker, the bookworm? What were you like?
No, my childhood was in the context of the family that I grew up with. I have 5 brothers and sisters, and 3 boys, 3 girls, and of course my mother and father, who were community-minded people and family-type persons, and of course the wider family unit in the community you grew up with, and the community as a whole, which one could say was part of a family. It is always said, I remember Hillary Clinton once said, it takes a village to grow up a child. So I saw myself in that context. I think my whole character of the person and my own outlook on life was certainly had a lot to do with the experiences growing up in the family, my family unit and the community. And also, the key thing about it was always about helping people and feeling a sense of achievement, to know that you are helping people, and because you yourself were the recipient of so much help from the community and from family, so you understood that what you receive, when the time comes, you have to also give back. Otherwise, you would not have learned the lessons that you should have learned growing up. So that's my whole upbringing. Playing in the backyards of people's home, on the beach, playing cricket to the boys and playing rounders, which that's why sometimes through pick on a certain person in politics can say they don't play even rounders because girls and boys play that. Kicking what we didn't have money to buy cricket balls and football balls, but we had the whole sport, the breadfruit, everything we get to run to kick and so on. So growing up in a community of it's helped to sort of make you understand about what life is all about, and sometimes people see certain persons and you see them reach certain stages in life, and a lot of the people do not understand that these persons didn't start where you have seen them. The whole life really, and the whole character began with the community that they grew up in, and it was not an easy thing because we didn't have material things. We did not have a lot to go by, but Amanda, one thing we had was love, the community. For example, in those days, and you can't do that now, those days, if you were in a community away from home, and you did, boys or girls, young boys, young girls, but particularly boys, you'd always get into a lot of naughty things. And you did anything wrong in the community, someone in the community would hold you and strap you. And you dare not go home and tell your parents because you will get moleks. Could you do that today? Could you think of doing this today?
Parents beating you too.
I know stories where a school, certain principal in certain schools would chastise a child, and the parents come to school to be the principal or the teacher. So it's a completely different environment, and I suppose our children will say, talk to the children about that same thing, that what they were allowed to get away with in their now with their children, which is our grandchildren, they were not able to get away with us. So life, that's the stage of life you go through.
What's one Grenadian dish that instantly reminds you of home every time?
Well, pea soup.
I would say oil.
Pea soup. My mom had, and that's the peas that we grow. It's not pigeon peas and all the other peas. That is the rare thing, green pea soup. Even when the peas go dry, it's the same type of excitement. And mom had a special way of making this pea soup with a lot of coconut. And and then she was good at making dumplings. Tight. So, see, some people making dumplings these days, it's melting your mouth. No, that's not her. So you had that, and you had the sweet potato, you had the yam, you had the plantain, you had the fig, and the blogo. When you got a plate of that, I tell you, man, and I used to be playing a lot of cricket sometimes as a teenager, and because I started representing Grenada at 16. And do you know, with all that cricket, because of the amount of coconut and other things in that soup, I used to be still getting wet. so that tells you, when you finish with a pea soup, you can't walk. That's how it was. And we so loved our mother's pea soup, so that when I became Prime Minister, when I was Prime Minister, for years, every Wednesday, she would cook that pea soup. And one of the police officers had to go to Happy Hill to collect that container of pea soup to bring up for me. So the maids in Montreal knew not to cook on Wednesdays, as long as my mother are able to do it. And so it's only and that continued. Yes, only in recent times. She just passed 100 years. She's 102, so she clearly can't go. We don't want to go by the stove now, and so on, because 102 you'll forget. But that pea soup, there was never anything like this. And you know something else? My father was a man that never really liked. He was not a flour and a rice man. He loved the garden stuff, the planting, the breadfruit. And I wasn't a fan of breadfruit. The potato, the yam, the fig, the plantain, and the blogo. So when she dished out the food and she gave him a set of dumpling, we know we could just sit. It's like when you're playing cricket and you sit in the slips and you wait, for the ball, for the to edge the ball so that you get to catch. Well, we used to wait for him to finish, and I was the leader of the pack. And I must get a dumpling because we know he knew sweet much of it. And he knew we loved it. So I think deliberately he didn't eat much of it because he knew we loved it. So these sort of things you always remember growing up and with a very tight family unit growing up. So, and I remember also, so I had an aunt. She died now. And they used to send us home messages to my aunt home as my father's sister. And she was living with my grandmother at the time. Where she was, is where my office is, my constituency office. That's where she was living. So every time I go there in the morning to bring an assignment or a message or to collect something, and my aunt would be making rose bakes. Yeah, I'll never forget that. And the first time she gave me a taste of that rose bakes, and it had a lot of coconut, and I don't know, maybe it had things like butter in it. I don't know what she put in it, but that thing used to be so nice. So every time you tell me go by auntie to drop this thing, I'm anxious, especially in morning time, because I know that time she preparing the bakes. So then I reach in and smell that bakes. And I ain't going until I get my piece of bakes. So if the bake's not ready, and you know, they said teach us not to beg. So I dare not say, Auntie, I want piece of bakes. So every time I say, Auntie, you're going. And I ain't moving. I ain't moving. Then Auntie, you're going. When she get the mess, she say, hold on, honey, go finish class now. I never forget that. I gave the story of that when she at her funeral when she had been buried. Never forget it. The best roast bakes I ever tasted. That roast bakes and my mother pea soup. I can never forget that.
What was your first job ever, and how did it go?
Now, first job was teaching at Presentation College, and in after I did my A levels in 1966, I taught at Presentation College for a year. No, I think I valued. I always felt I was a teacher. That was my calling, and maybe it's because just like politics is about people. And I always valued my relationship with students, and they always saw me as a friend, not as their professor. And that was right through my life. Any place that I taught, I became almost a friend of the students, and therefore they felt comfortable to come to me. And so at college, I was at that time also playing cricket for Grenada, so they looked up to me sports-wise, but also I was teaching mathematics and chemistry in the lower forms at A levels, and I developed a very close working relationship, and I used to value my relationship with the students, and I mean, I had a particular interest in students who I knew whose parents could not afford. They were poor. Poor people, and therefore I used to get mad at students that I thought was poor and fooling around in class and not doing. And I think I gave you that story about a student who carried that whole against me because I was tough on him, and so on. But I told that story because I taught at St. John's Christian Secondary School in another year, and that same kind of relationship that I developed with students over, so that I became a friend. So that many of the students, or years afterwards, no matter where they were, they always would. Then when they get married or had a family life or anything happens, I would be involved with a lot of them, a lot of the students then. And even when I went abroad and started Howard University as a professor there, as you know, having gone to university, you would have a course in mathematics or statistics. That is, so you have several professors teaching because it's a large university. So you'd have a class in, say, for example, calculus, mathematics course, calculus 1, 2, 3, whatever they are. And I would be teaching the course, but you have about 4 or 5 professors teaching at different times. You know something? What I realized was when the classes begun, you found out that 75, 80 students in your class, and the other professors had 10, 12. So I had to be correcting books for 70-something students, whereas these guys, being paid just like me, had to correct just 10, 12 books because of the amount of students, and they were flocking to my class. And I they had to ask the chairman of my department, look at what is happening. Like, how come these students are all coming to my class and giving me all this extra work? And I love the students, but I felt that why don't they put on more pressure on the others too? And the chairman told me, he said, listen, Keith, you have to understand the students, they have a choice. And you obviously, they saw you as somebody who was easy to talk to, or who would listen to them. And if they were not doing well, and that was true, they are not afraid to come and admit that and ask for help. With some other professors, they might not feel that comfortable, and some cases justifiably so. When they went to them, the way they treated them as dumb or people that cannot understand, and they felt uncomfortable. So, and that sort of image carried from class to class. So I ended up with much more work because of the perception that I genuinely cared and had a relationship with students for deeper than just being the professor of the person, but also being a friend of the individual. And that's the story of my life in politics. And I think this is all about human being. In anything you do or you are in, the constituents that I represent, they don't just see me as a representative. They see me as a friend. So the relationship that I have with people in my constituency or in politics in general is far deeper. So when I hear some people talking about coming in Northwest, and they don't understand the depth of that relationship. You could come, you could give them material things because they know that's the reason you're giving them. But the relationship that they have with that other person is so deep. It's far beyond material things because I can give you material things and have no love and feelings for you. On the other hand, I could have nothing to give you, but I give you love, I give you respect, I give you feelings that I care deeply about you. You don't, I mean, while you need the material things and you will accept it from anyone, especially in the case of a government, it is your resources, the country's resources, not the politician resources. So they're not doing you any favor with that. It's not their money. It's not the material things. It's the people's thing, and you are part of the people. So you have a right to it, and so on. And therefore, it's much more than the material things you give, but how they feel about you and how they feel that you feel about them. It's far more significant than the material things that you dish out to them.
If you could time travel to your teenage years with one message, what message would that be?
Well, I think the key things about love, I think that message, the message that you are just an individual who were given an opportunity by the Almighty God to be of service in a particular period of time. I just came from a service for a lady who died in the 80s, and the pastor was talking about why all the tributes were so strong about the person's love for people. It's not about the material things that she gave. She did give, but remember the love, the care, the interest, and therefore, walking back in time, it's about that element of character, the love that you impart to people and what they show. And sometimes even when you give material things, people don't always show a sense of gratitude. But you do not regret what you have done. If they don't appreciate the fact that they must show gratitude, that's their problem. That's not your problem. And of course, in my period of politics, and some of the people I help the most are the ones that turn out to be against me, and sometimes vicious against me. But that has never changed my mind. I've never said if I had the opportunity, I wouldn't help them. No, I've never regretted it. I say, what they are doing today and the disrespect to all and the lack of gratitude, that's their problem. And maybe one day they might understand it. That's going to be their problem. And that to me is about life going back. As I said, the question was about going back in time. What would you look? And the whole question of love, caring for people and doing what you can during the period of time you have an opportunity. Because we're here for a short time on this earth. And therefore, the time you have must be spent. That's what people remember. People sometimes don't remember a lot of things, the material things you do or give. What they remember is the love and respect you show them.
What's one talent that you have that people wouldn't expect from a former prime minister?
Well, one thing I would say is that the office you hold doesn't necessarily make people appreciate you. The title is that how you use that office to help people and to show respect and love for people. There's some people in the top position of a business. When they're out there, they had the opportunity to help others. They don't do that. They talk down to people. Even when some of them give people something or something people get asked for, the way they do it is sort of looking down on the person. That they don't see you in a positive light. So helping people in whatever area your responsibility. So you are in sports. You're head of a football team or cricket team or whatever it is. And there are players under you. What they remember is they love you, show them the respect even when they're not doing well. You help find ways to console them and to help them and motivate them. That's what they remember, you know. And in politics is the same thing as prime minister. What they remember about you is when you had the opportunity to serve, that you did it in a way that made them feel good about themselves and you were able to do what you can. Some people become prime minister, and you could see the kind of that. You've seen it. It's about the title. When you walk in, it's like everybody must look up to you. Who are you? You're just a human being, and the citizen gave you the vote to make you feel the way you're feeling. And one day I will take it back if you do not operate in a manner. And sometimes in political life or any life, when you put yourself up on a pedestal, the coming down could be very hard. Because one day, you would have to come down. And there's a story that says, when you're going up the ladder, while you're going up, you meet some people coming down. Do not treat them badly, because one day, you will be coming down. And maybe some of them will be going back up. So you have to be careful about that. So that's a story that I would like to always remind those who acquire high offices, not just prime minister or political office, minister, whoever it is. Just remember that's a period of time of service, not to feel that you are superior than anybody else and that you treat people the way you feel that you are bigger than everybody else. And that goes to business, it goes to politics, it goes to sports, it goes to culture, it goes to all aspects of life, because nothing stays up there forever. One day you have to come down and face the consequences of being up there and not behaving properly.
So would you say that you're an early bird or a late person?
Well, not really. I wouldn't say early or late. I would say I tend to want to generally go to sleep by 10 o'clock. And some days I pass that. Some days might be slightly below. But what I do is I value having enough rest, because I value my exercise. In the morning I get up 3, 4 o'clock. And long since I was years ago, about 40, 50 years ago, when I was prime minister, I used to be doing the same thing. So I want to go to bed at a certain time, because you need to have about at least 5 hours of good sleep to enjoy your exercise next day. Because if you don't have enough, then the time comes when you want to do that exercise, you don't enjoy it. So I would say that I'm in the middle of that. Can't say I'm an early bird or late bird as far as sleep is concerned. It's about being able to have enough rest so that I can do the things that I want to do during the day, or get up earlier to do the exercise that I want to do.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you 4 rapid fire questions, right? Nutmeg or cocoa?
Nutmeg.
Beach or mountain?
Beach.
Soca music or calypso?
Well, I'm a calypso man. The soft calypso. So I'm a calypso man. Sometimes the soca is a little above my head. Sometimes when my son, it's like coming home, even as prime minister coming home, and I hear the music loud in the house. What going on there? this thing, I have no feel for it. But he's enjoying himself, and he's up and down in the air and so on. And I said, well, you had your time. Maybe my parents used to say the same thing about me, so we can't be too cross about what we see our young people. But I like listen the reggae music, the Bob Marley type. And you would ask me what singer. I like Dolly Parton because the country and western. I really love her. She has a special voice,
Yeah.
as you know. I mean,
Very unique.
It's very unique voice. You never heard anybody like that. And the Mighty Sparrow, of course, is calypsos and locally, Ajamo's music has always been a pleasure. Wizard has been a very good calypso, and mine too. I always enjoy his uplifting calypso, and IMF, and so on. These calypsos are historical ones, you know. So I'm a calypso type person. I enjoy some soca, but I cannot say that soca, especially in the context of what soca is today, is quite different. But these are most of the soca boys are my friends, so I enjoy watching and see them their success stories. But like for me, listening music, I like the soft calypsos.
Tea or coffee?
I'm a coffee man. Any day I don't have coffee in the morning, something is wrong. It's a part of me that I must have a cup of coffee. And I have the cup of coffee, Amanda, with some turmeric and ginger, and the other one, but we can try to forget the other name. One, cinnamon. The three of them have to be part of that coffee drinking every morning.
That's a different combination.
Yeah, but they said the turmeric is very useful for all kinds of things, and it's well known that ginger is a good thing to use.
Very good.
Sometimes I don't necessarily put them in the coffee. Sometimes I do the ginger separately with lime and lime water. They say it cleanses you out, especially as warm water. It does. So I do that basically every day. This morning I had my cup of coffee with the cinnamon and the turmeric and so on. So that's, I would say, coffee, definitely.
That's a unique type.
Yes.
A very unique type.
Well, I'm not promoting this as for everybody because no doctor says that is the ideal thing to make you live longer or to feel like. That's what I accustomed to. It makes me feel good, but I don't know if it'll make everybody feel the same way. So I'm not offering that as a medication for anybody else to use.
What's the weirdest thing you ever got in trouble for as a child?
I think, basically, as I know, cricket was my thing, and my parents would send you out, and it's like something in you. You go somewhere and you see a cricket game playing, and you forget that you're sent out for. So sometimes you would be there batting in the field, and then the guy say, "Look at you, father! Drop the bat and take off." And they beat you, tell you, well, you can't. If I send you out, you have to do the things first before you can. Man, yes, I'd take the licks, cry, and all kinds of stuff, and beg pardon. But 3 weeks later, I go back do the same thing. So more licks, but there was a part of me. Cricket was always a major attraction and word for it. It's a part of the stubbornness of young boys, or young girls maybe to some extent, but the boys always get in trouble for things like that.
I'm imagining you, mommy sending you to the shop and
No, I go on and cricket man, they send me the food on fire and they have some, and I go on, man, and cricket take over and that's it. And so on. My mother she was that strong. I'm telling you something about her, she's the 102. And so we always laugh about jokes. So she would, if she has to scold you, any of the parents, I used to prefer my father to beat me. Because he make too long, bam, 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 bam. And then he tired, he blowing like hell, and then he leave us in God. But she will put you kneel down, and one, and then talk to you. One, and talk to you. I never like every time I make sure he at home to be, if I do anything wrong, not her. She used to be, she used to, and sometimes she was, and I tell her that no, she denying it. She used to make you go and cut your own whip. Yeah, could you imagine? So sometimes you cut a little branch of a black stage tree. Branch, small because that one
Yeah.
give. Oh, go back and get another one. And say, well, how you could affect me? I had to go back and get, and to beat for me.
You dig in your own grave.
Yeah, but she insisted, and until you get one that she happy with, Papa, you have to keep going back and cut another branch for the licks that you have to get. This stories when I tell her no, she's denying. She may know nothing about that. I say, well, she got O2 now, so I excuse her.
As you mentioned, mommy. Who gave the best advice, mommy or daddy?
I think mom. I think mom. Then there's a general thing I believe, and that's generally true. I think boys are usually closer to mom. The girls are usually closer. Generally speaking, you would find different, some from family, the opposite, but I think that's generally so. But I think in the case of our family, most of my sisters and brothers would have been closer to mom because she was the one at home. You know, in those days, women did not work much. Their work was in the house. So she cooked, she washed, and in her case, she did help with the garden to some extent, but that was distinct from her the house duties. She was always home. She did baking to sell bread and cakes and so on. This was help the family, but Dad was always out in the garden, or we had a cane mill that made sugar, so he was always there. So he was more out, and she was more in. So the relationship, she would have a stronger influence on all of us, I think, but particularly most of the boys.
What was your favorite subject in school and your least favorite?
Well, certainly mathematics, arithmetic, because at primary school it was arithmetic. I don't know. I had, there's some, has to be some gift because I would not have known. And I remember at Standard 1 in primary school, when after Hurricane Janet, the first arithmetic exam that was given, the teacher at the time, Percival Hood from Happy Hill, it's Cajetan Hood's father, he was a teacher. He gave this exam and he came back to the classroom with the corrections. And those days he gave you percentages. And those days you had your exercise book, pages that you did your exams on. And they used to have red ink. Then they put the scores on. And he came back in the classroom and then he said, the general class did generally good, but I have one impressive results. One student got 100%. And then I saw, it looked as if my paper was the one on top. And then when he finally disclosed, the student was me. So that, and I didn't feel that I did that well, but I felt I did good enough. So I felt that made me think there was some special gift maybe I had. And that made me pay more attention to arithmetic. And that took me on to whether it's algebra in secondary school and geometry. So right through life, my scores were always better in those subjects than any other subjects, and maybe in A-levels, chemistry and so on. And it's associated with the science. The one I never liked was English. English. Look, you know, there are some stories those days. You're in school, and I went from Happy Hill to the Fletcher Memorial in St. George's Catholic school. And they had some strange mindset those days that if a child makes a mistake, you beat him. So this is a weird thing. Your child didn't make a mistake because he wanted to make a mistake or she wanted. Beating him, to me, didn't make a lot of sense, but that's how it was those days. You beat children for everything. So whenever they're doing arithmetic, man, I relax, man. And I watch other fellas get licks first, whatever mistake they make. But, Amanda, when you hear English, I couldn't spell well. Because where I come from, Happy Hill, when you go on the beach, the only bad word and fellas crossing. So you can't construct a good sentence. Serious. So I would be doing first class in arithmetic and math and can't pass the English. Couldn't write a good essay. That's a fact. And so I remember in one you give dictation and spelling, and the teacher will stand over you, and while you're already frightened, you ain't thinking, because you're so worried about licks. They said to spell D. I put D-E, man. Well, more licks in the skin, because I'm so frightened. D-E. I never forget. The man beat me. I got about 10 lashes for that. I mean, when I grew up, so I remember very much. One day, I was in secondary school, and I was doing very well. So I met that certain teacher. I would never call his person name. He's not alive now. And he said, every time I look at you, I see the pride of my success in teaching. I say in my mind, if he knows, I could have not come down for what, the amount of licks a man gave me for spelling. And he thought he helped me. I couldn't wait to get away from that school, to go back to. I couldn't wait. But I think he meant well. He clearly thought by beating me, he was helping me. And I saw that happen. I know a lot of guys and girls left school because they were afraid of the licks. And why should anyone stop going to school or class because he or she? But I think that was those days when it was everything was licks. If you come late to school, licks. If you did bad on an exam, licks. If you didn't say a hello to a person, licks. Everything was licks. And they thought they genuinely thought that they were helping, helping to help that child to grow up with that level of discipline. Now you could discipline a child without necessarily spanking a child continuously. I'm not saying sometimes you do something to make them understand there's a penalty for, but this consistent approach to beating a child for all kinds of things didn't make a lot of sense. But that's a story of those times we're growing up, and maybe in a way it probably helped us, but I don't know that I can safely say that for myself and so on. But these are all stories that as you go over and over, you look back on. Some kids these days would never have an appreciation for what you went through. And remember, I don't know if I told you the story about my own son, because we were living in a pretty small room, and 6 of us were staying on the floor, and my mother and father in the room. That's a two house room that they had, and it was an old little piece of house. And I remember we were living at Happy Hill when I was Prime Minister. My son was a young guy going to college at the time, and he had a friend of his who was also going to high school, and they had a house close by. An old house similar to the one that we were living in before. And that guy's mother was occupying the house. Mm. So my son asked the young man, he said, are you all living there? The guy told me, yes. He said, is that your house? He told him, no. He said, we're renting. He said, you're paying rent for that? the guy tell him, yes, he's paying rent. So he found out who the lady that owner was a cousin of mine. So he went, my son now, he went to the lady. And he said, Miss so-and-so, you own that house close to that man and this young boy staying in with his mother? She said yes, because she found out through the child asking her this question. He said, and you're charging him rent? She said yes, it's mine. She get vexed. she said yes. And I want to tell you that your father used to say something worse than that. He was in shock. Can't believe it, because born in Washington, we are living in all kind of houses. We're traveling all over the world. As a professor, we used to be in first class in planes, and he had no appreciation for that kind of life. So he come home after the lady scolded his skin. And he asked me, this lady told me that you all live in a house worse than that. I said, yes, and I give him story. He said, Daddy, tell me another Tim Tim. You see, Tim Tim. What was real to you, Tim Tim to him. And he understood, because he had no appreciation. We didn't really used to go and push that in his head over. Mm-hmm. So it was an experience for him to realize that we had that kind of experience growing up. So, yeah, so that's a life.
You mentioned traveling. If you can take a vacation right now, no phone, no security cameras, no security in itself, which place would you go?
It's strange, a place like Carriacou or St. Patrick, some area like that, where the beauty, and they sit and you watch the whole Grenadines. I mean, you have a sense of appreciation for life and the nature type activities that you see. I'm not a city man by nature. I like the countryside, and I like to see the nature in its whole beauty. That so I would not be living in North America. Was, as far as I'm concerned, that's for a time in life. The high rise and the big buildings and this one. That's some people love this. That was not my cup of tea.
Well, we're about to wrap up. What is one moment in your career where you felt truly proud, but you never spoke about it?
Well, I may not have spoken about it publicly, but I can say this. As you always tell you, cricket has always been a major part of my life. And at 16 years, I was chosen to represent my country in Grenada in cricket, and went to Dominica. First time I'm traveling in a plane. Frightened like hell, because I'm just going up in the sky up there and so on. And I remember there was a guy called Irvin Shillingford, who was known as one of the best batsmen, and later on I found he was indeed. In fact, he finally played for West Indies. And was treated badly, because he should have played West Indies for years before that, because those days they were picking guys from the islands easily. And he was an excellent batsman. And this guy was playing all bowlers as if a joke, and the captain called me on to bowl. And in the fourth ball, I clean bowled him. And I never forgot that. That's all, because that to me, wherever I go in Dominica, that's Mr. The Dominican speak. Mr. that clean ball, Mr. Shillingford. And Shillingford always teased me. I never got him out after that. Remember, years we played against each other, years. Because I think by then he got to realize what I was bowling, how I was bowling. And he was an 80-something, batting as if he couldn't get out. I've never forgotten that. That piece of story in my life is always something. It's, as I do in my memoirs, these are some of the stories I tell you here. I'm going to be in memoirs because they're an important part of my life. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Thank you so much for your time. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.